Has there been any progress on state capture? I mean, it's been a few months now since the final report was handed over to President Cyril Ramaphosa, and we haven't heard much about people being held to account. But are the authorities doing enough? So let's discuss this with Corruption Watch Executive Director Karam Singh joins me this morning to take this conversation forward. Karam, good morning to you and happy Monday. But is it a happy Monday? South Africans are quite impatient. It's been months since we saw the final report being handed over to the President. He promised that he'll handle it, but he's too busy now campaigning, of course, for the elective conference that's coming up. So what's going on here? Are we going to see some convictions?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think people are right to be a little bit impatient. It's been the commission took many years to execute its mandate, and we're really at a crunch moment now. I think it's important to remind people that the presidency said they would give a comprehensive response to the report within 3 months of receiving the final report. So the clock is kind of running out on that. So we'll expect to see something tabled by the presidency very shortly at Parliament, and I think that'll make interesting reading. But, you know, in the meanwhile, we have certainly seen some significant developments from the MPA in terms of new cases being enrolled, prominent persons being arrested. So the wheels of prosecutions beginning to start. And then, you know, we're also seeing different processes relating to the recovery of stolen assets. And then I think in terms of what we're seeing in terms of pursuing private sector accountability, we've recently seen the banning of Bain Consulting, which is a really significant development following a similar action that was taken by the UK Cabinet Office.
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised that particular issue with regards to Bain & Company. I asked the same question to Busas Kaskuvadi. I'll ask it to you as well, Karam, if I may. Does the punishment match the crime? The banning coming from Treasury being 10 years that Bain & Company cannot conduct business with, of course, the public sector. Are you satisfied with that particular banning? This, of course, follows the UK saying they wouldn't do business, or at least not be allowed to do business with the UK for a maximum of 3 years.
I think, in short, we can be relatively satisfied. I think that the important thing to note is that it's been incredibly difficult to pursue real accountability against big corporate actors for corruption or for their complicity in other types of criminal activity, like when we see mass disasters. It's always really difficult to get accountability from corporates, and even within our legal system, it's something which is not, the rules are not completely clear, and it feels like the authorities often working with one hand tied behind their back when it comes to pursuing this accountability. So if you can't prosecute people and you can't recover the money, the one thing you certainly can do is you can blacklist them, and you can say, as a result of your conduct, government is no longer going to do business with you for a cooling off period. And some may argue that it would be unfair to ban a company for in perpetuity, but certainly a 10-year ban seems like a positive step in the right direction, given our context.
Do you expect some resistance, in terms of those implicated in state capture? I mean, we've seen reports, various reports. There's some political heavyweights, some including the ANC, individuals and political heavyweights there fighting back, making sure that they are appealing, conducting, or consulting their legal representatives to fight them being implicated in state capture. Is that going to be something that the country should expect? More of a fight back, a resistance from Zondo's report?
I think we will. I mean, we'll certainly see that in terms of the criminal cases. We have a rule of law society where there's a presumption of innocence. If you want to prosecute somebody criminally, you need to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt. So the MPA is obviously only going to enroll cases that they think that they can win. But we've seen different strategies deployed by criminally accused to try to draw the cases out. So, one of the things we've been arguing is that we need to have dedicated court roles, even a dedicated tribunal to deal with the number of corruption cases that are required. But I think, there are going to be very few of these cases that are going to resolve themselves quickly. They're only going to resolve themselves quickly if people admit their guilt. Maybe they could engage in some kind of a plea bargain where they can share additional information. But if people want to sort of stick to their guns and use every every tool available to them to defend themselves, then these cases will get prolonged.
And I suppose my last question to you, Karam, what's your expectation then from the president? President Cyril Ramaphosa did promise that he will, of course, take action. What's your expectation then from him?
My expectation would be a really vigorous response. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of recommendations across the public service, not just about prosecutions and asset recovery, but recommendations about the reform to the political system, reform to how we do appointments, reform to the public procurement system. So, the president needs to make the right noises, needs to give us the right indication that there are plans in place to address these systemic recommendations that are required to future-proof the democracy such that we don't have a state capture situation again anytime soon.
And I appreciate you adding your voice to this conversation. Corruption Watch Executive Director Karam Singh, thank you so much for speaking to me this morning.